Can we get everyone to take a seat? I just want to say a brief welcome from the library. We're very excited to host this evening, and I want to point out that this is a collaboration between the library, Energize Wayland, Temple Shir Tikva, the Wayland Democratic Town Committee, and the Wayland Energy and Climate Committee. So I hope you are all here and get a lot of great information tonight. I'll let the presenters introduce themselves. We are also recording for Waycam and our YouTube page, so you'll be able to share and rewatch.
And I want to thank Courtney for being a great partner and responsive via email, even when I am not. So thank you very much. I'm going to hand it over to you.
Great. I don't think I need a microphone.
No, we're recording, so you actually have to do it.
Okay.
Can you do a hand count on how people found out about this?
Okay.
I'm taking pictures. If you don't want your picture taken,
Okay.
just let me know.
I'm just going to pass this around too. This is a sign-up sheet for Energize Wayland. You can get on our newsletter, and if you want to hear more about solar or heat pumps or solar coaching, then I know you've found all that out, but that you can sign up here. So, all right, well, welcome. Thanks for coming out on this blustery day. I'm Ann Harris, and is it not loud enough, or is that better? I'm on the Energy and Climate Committee, and I'm a Wayland resident. And we're going to go over all the interesting things that are going on in town in sustainability. I'm just going to do a quick intro and then let some other folks share all their info with you. So the Energy and Climate Committee, let me just tell you a little bit about what that is. That is a town board. It's appointed by the select board, and we do things in town like the solar panels you see on the parking lots and the schools, the LED street light conversions. That's something that was done by the Energy and Climate Committee. We lobbied for, Ellen did a lot of that, lobbied for a sustainability manager position, and we now have that filled, which has been a huge help in the past year. And we also recently wrote the Climate Action Plan, which is a whole set of recommendations that the town and residents can do to help us get towards our climate goals. So that includes things. Abby will talk a little more about that and what specific things they are, but it's trying to encourage people to reduce their fossil fuel use in their buildings, their homes, our vehicles and cars, but also things like just conserving our resources and our nature-based solutions to climate, and helping us figure out ways to deal with hotter weather and flooding like we may be challenged with in Wayland. So the Climate Action Plan goes over a lot of those things. I was just going to, so I'm on the Energy and Climate Committee. I'm also a member of Energize Wayland, which you can hear a little bit more about too. Energize Wayland is the community arm of our sustainability work. Also all volunteers, but we do things like help people learn about heat pumps and electric vehicles, or native plantings in their homes and things like that. So, and we put on webinars and do a lot of social media to try to get the word out about activities and things happening in town. So I'm just going to introduce the rest of the people here. I think a lot of people here on committee members may outnumber all the the other folks coming, but other members on the Energy and Climate Committee are raise your hand. Ellen's my co-chair. Tom Siaka is here. Paul Dale, John Harper. Anybody else I'm missing? That's our committee. That's the Energy and Climate Committee, the town committee. Then we have Energize Wayland members, Shelley Truxas. Let's see, Sabine's not here today. Steve is he's energized, but he's also the founder of the Heat Smart Alliance, which is very cool. He trained all of us how to learn about heat pumps and such, and he'll talk to you more about that. So, and then we've got a lot of volunteers here as well. So Thanks, everybody. I'm going to pass it over to you, Abby. Oh, quick, you wanted to do a little survey?
There's a couple slides. Can you hit the slide?
Sure.
How did thank you, Paul. How did people hear about this event? Raise your hand if you heard about it because of an Energize Wayland newsletter. Anne, are you counting this? Three or four. If you did you hear about it from a how else do people hear about it? Was it from the library? How many people heard from the library? Wayland Parent Teacher Association. That was you. How other people? How did other people hear about this? Facebook. Because we're wondering, like, actually, what Facebook? A Wayland Community Forum or Wayland Moms? Which ones? Can't remember. You're in both. Wayland Community Forum. Okay. Nobody from next door. It helps us understand how to do this better. I never saw this on Nextdoor. You never. We posted. Ann and I posted this on Nextdoor. So, but it's Nextdoor has a lot of volume, so it could get hidden. Okay, so the answer is we should continue to post on social media. That's what I'm taking away from that. And I think I had one of Abby. This is your computer. I didn't really. How do we? Oh, okay. So these were the climate action plan that Ann talked about. Our categories. Actually, before I do this, I'm going to give you a pop quiz. What percentage of greenhouse gas emissions in Wayland do you think come from our municipal operations? 10%. Somebody else give me a number. Steve, you know too much. Everybody on the committee stopped answering that question. 10%, 5. Answer, 4%. What percentage of our emissions come from us, our homes, and our cars? 90, 80. Anybody else want to be a contrarian? 70. Answer, 79%. So the bottom line of that is the Energy and Climate Committee has been doing a ton of work. Fantastic. I love what we've been doing. We've reduced our energy use substantially. We save the town about $250,000 a year through all the things that we've done, and Abby's doing more. We're going to save more and more, and it sort of doesn't matter, right? Because it's 4% of our emissions. It matters because we're going to lead by example, but if we don't tackle the 79% of emissions, we're just not going to make enough progress. We're in a climate emergency. We voted for it. We declared it. It's true. So we have to, so that's the emissions. This is residential buildings. This is residential cars. And when you add up the municipal stuff, it's 4 or 5%. 13% is commercial buildings. So we have not a lot, but we have some commercial buildings in town. But the big takeaway is we are the source of emissions, and I will come back to all the things we can do. You will leave here tonight, I hope, learning one new thing, having one new step to take, and getting one new set of supports to help you take that step. But didn't we have the evaluation question? Why? That was your second slide. Okay, so let me, we are participating in a 4-town initiative, which you'll hear more about in a little bit, but we're trying to make sure we evaluate all these events. So I want to do this. I want to rate your knowledge just in general about sustainability. This is going to be hand raising, and Abby, can you count? How many people would say sustainability and climate stuff is new to me? One, you got it? How many people would say minimal? I have minimal knowledge. Okay. How many people say some familiarity? 1, 2, 3, and very knowledgeable. All right, you got to count those. One, and you got the total number of people. I know, but this is who came to the event. It doesn't matter. Okay. Abby, Ann, got it? Okay, great. All right. There will be 3 evaluation questions at the end. So as Ann said, I'm thrilled that Wayland stepped up. We funded a sustainability manager. Thanks to many of you for advocating for that. Abby's been here since April, May. I would say she won't say this part, but since she's been here, she has secured, what was the green communities, about 100 and, how much? Total? Yeah. Oh, the total amount of money you've brought into town. She has more than paid for her salary since she's been here.
Thank you.
And interrupt Abby if you have any questions.
Yeah, definitely go for it. Alrighty, so thank you, Ellen. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. So, as Ellen said, my name's Abby Shute, and I am the Sustainability Manager for the town. So I was chosen by the town as the sustainability manager to implement the Climate Action Mobilization Plan. And as Ann and Ellen stated, the Climate Action Plan contains goals and guidance for Wayland to combat climate change and meet state emissions reduction requirements. So I have a background in facilities management, conservation, and nonprofit work. And I also hold a master's degree in sustainable development and climate change. And through this, I bring a unique skill set to drive our town towards a sustainable future. So I wanted to start tonight by explaining a bit more in depth about my role. So I'm Wayland's first sustainability manager. As we just discussed, I began my journey here in April of 2023, so coming up on a year next month. And more than 50 other municipalities in the state have this role. And it is needed to enable towns to seize opportunities to effectively combat climate change. So since my main focus is implementing the Climate Action Plan, it's clear what needs to be done, but how is my role impactful? So my role is unique and impactful because I'm able to manage town capital projects related to the Climate Action Plan, connect sustainability efforts across multiple town departments, source and implement grant funding, develop and request a capital budget if needed, and I can also act as a resource for other town staff, residents, and volunteer groups. So sustainability staff view long-term planning in a way that can build resiliency and preserve communities, as well as act as a point person for residents so they can build resiliency in their daily lives. So the main takeaway here is sustainability staff are a crucial aspect of implementing climate goals and meeting state emissions reduction requirements. But since we also have strong engagement from volunteer groups such as Energize Wayland and the Energy and Climate Committee, we are in an even better position to be successful. Each of us has a unique impact that will help us achieve our goals. And climate change and sustainability are both evolving landscapes, and having staff as well as volunteers devoted to these efforts means that Wayland will be on the cutting edge of climate action and will be the first in line for future funding and other opportunities. So speaking of funding opportunities, since starting in April, I have secured over $160,000 in grant funding. And this week I actually received notice, oh thank you, yeah, right, go team. But yeah, so this week I actually received notice. We've received additional funding, but we can't share too many details just yet. But just know, so the number's even higher than this now. So to break this down, we received $28,965 from the Massachusetts Electric Vehicle Incentive Program for public access charging at the new Council on Aging building. So this will allow us to install 5 dual-port electric vehicle chargers, similar to the ones currently at Town Hall. We received $92,813 from the Massachusetts Department of Energy Resources for a retro commissioning at the DPW. This will restore the building's heating and cooling system to proper function. And this grant will also fund multiple weatherization projects at the town building and Clay Pit Hill Elementary School. And each of these projects will work to save energy as well as reduce utility costs long term. So we have also received $44,000 for our senior heat resiliency campaign from the Metropolitan Area Planning Council's Accelerating Climate Resiliency Program. So this grant is earmarked for Wayland to engage in a collaborative effort with Ashland, Framingham, Natick, and Weston to address the escalating impacts of extreme heat caused by climate change. So notably, the summer of 2023 set a record for heat, which highlights the urgency of this issue. And coupled with this, extreme heat disproportionately affects our elders for various reasons, including health status and living situation. So the baby boomer generation has a high population. This means across the United States, by 2030, we will have more residents over the age of 65 than children under the age of 18. So due to this, we are working to combat this issue now to fill information gaps, improve processes, and increase the availability of resources before the demand increases. Not only because the population increased, but also because of the increased periods of extreme heat. So this project is now in its early stages, but we plan to launch a series of events during the summer months, and we will be advertising those events in the COA newsletter, the COA e-blast, as well as the town hall bulletin boards. So if you'd like to keep an eye out for more details, those are the places to look. So overall, within my first year, I'm working to chip away at the projects that are already underway and start work on projects that have the most grant funding readily available. From there on, I plan to work strategically to complete our more complex goals in a timely manner. And by 2025, my goal is to have completed an updated review of our townwide emissions so we can definitively track our progress towards our 2030 goals. So now I wanted to take some time to delve deeper into my focus areas and current projects. So I'd like to start by discussing solar. So on the left of the screen here, the Loker Elementary Solar, and on the right of the screen is the Council on Aging Solar. These are two of the bigger projects that are moving forward at this time. So both of these were in progress by the time I started in my role, so it was really a good way for me to dive in head first. And through the help of the facility staff and members of the Energy and Climate Committee, I was able to quickly learn the history of these projects and began to manage their progress. So Loker Solar is a rooftop array that is 109 kilowatt DC, and this will offset about 30% of the school's annual energy usage. This is the largest array we were able to add to this building without structural reinforcements. So one element of the climate action plan worth noting is projects related to our goals are encouraged only to be completed where feasible and cost effective. So in this scenario, structural reinforcements would not have been cost effective, so we opted not to complete them. So further down the line, there is a possibility for completing structural reinforcements, expanding this array, and potentially adding battery storage as well. And for the Council on Aging rooftop and canopy solar systems, this project is a remodel of an existing structure in Town Center, and some of you may have seen the work starting to take place over there already. And that building will eventually be the new Council on Aging Community Center. This project will consist of a 50 kilowatt DC rooftop array and 2 parking lot canopy arrays that equal 115 kilowatt DC. And all of this will work together to offset 100% of the building's annual predicted energy usage. Not at Loker, no. The middle school has them, so maybe that's what you're thinking. Yeah. So focusing a bit closer on the Council on Aging project, this new building will have no on-site fossil fuels and run fully on electricity. So with the addition of the solar arrays, the building will be net zero. It will also feature EV charging stations for visitors with electric vehicles. So this project will meet stringent energy standards, and the building is expected to open its doors in the summer of 2025. And this is a big win for the community because we are expanding our public spaces, but not increasing our carbon footprint. We're building responsibly and designing with the future in mind. Yeah, go ahead.
You said no fossil fuels. How's it going to be heated?
So we'll use electric heat pumps. Yeah. Excellent. Alrighty, yeah, and I'm really excited about this project, but it is really not the only facility that we're exploring sustainable solutions for. So we are working on energy and efficiency upgrades in the town hall in the form of an energy service contract. And there we will be displacing some of the building's gas heating system and replacing it with hybrid heat pumps. So this will reduce the building's gas usage and carbon footprint, as well as help us to save on utility bills. So alongside this, we are exploring heating and cooling upgrades at Fire Station 2, the Public Safety Building, and multiple schools. These upgrades will consist of the installation of either fully electric or hybrid heat pump units, and we have already completed the installation of heat pumps at Loker Elementary. And those units are hybrid, so they work to displace some of the gas usage and reduce utility costs. So there are generous rebates available for these types of upgrades at this time, so we are working quickly to review each building's needs and install these units where possible. So additional projects cover a wide range of topics, and I won't go into all of these, but I will hit the highlights. So for composting, at this time, composting is in full swing at the high school, and it has reduced school lunch waste by 70%. And I'm beginning to work with the school department, the Wayland Green Team, and other stakeholders to incorporate composting across the school district. Massachusetts does have a solid waste master plan, and district-wide composting will align with those goals and the goals in our climate action plan as well. For electric buses, so I'm currently exploring grant funding opportunities for electric buses, but current grants are targeted at schools who own their entire fleet. Since we do not own our fleet, our grant options are limited for now. But we are also part of the Metro West Regional School Fleet Electrification Study. And this study is working with several communities, including Ashland, Hopkinton, Natick, Concord, and Weston, to identify concrete pathways to school bus electrification. So there may be creative solutions to funding, such as shared fleets or shared charging infrastructure as well. But overall, this study is working to identify solutions to common barriers and help us get a clearer vision of how we can electrify our school bus fleet. And on a similar note, I'm in the process of drafting a town staff policy known as the Net Zero Vehicle First policy. And this will require town staff to consider fully electric or hybrid vehicles when they purchase a new town fleet vehicle. So this does consider cost effectiveness, feasibility, department budgets, as well as department needs. In our climate plan, our 2030 goal is for all new light-duty town vehicles to be fully electric. So this will align with our goals, as well as enable us to apply for additional grant funding. So overall, there are many exciting projects in the works and several others that are ready to go when the appropriate grant funding is available. But now, if you'd like to keep up to date with ongoing sustainability projects and grant awards, you can make sure to check out the Sustainability Department page on the town website. And yeah, so thank you all for having me tonight, and I'll pass it over to Ellen.
Yeah. So I want to say, it's great to have Abby here. Before Abby, Ann, and I were writing all the grant things. Question.
Are the grants primarily state or federal?
Are the grants primarily state or federal? Answer is state.
Yes.
We're not getting any federal grants. They're primarily state. We've brought in about before Abby started, we brought in about $1.2 million in grants, the Energy and Climate Committee, and we leveraged about $6 to $7 million in private investment because all the big solar arrays in town, and the guy sitting right in front of you, John Harper, is responsible for making most of that happen. Those were done with private money, no money out for us, and we save about $120K a year on those for the town budget. So we applied for the federal money for EPA for school buses, and they're really directing that money to communities that qualify as environmental justice communities, and we're just not in line for that. We're keeping our eyes out, but thus far we've been getting state money pretty effectively. I want to say, Abby, early on the job, there was someone in town was going to buy a car, whether the Ford Explorer, I forget what his department is. Building department. He was about to buy another, what we would call an ICE car, internal combustion engine car. So Abby was there, and it was like, whoa, before you buy that, let's look at the electric options. So quickly that turned into an electric car, and the police department, Ann's work with the police department here, and he's really all in. We used grant funds and got him hybrids, and he's like, I'm never going to buy anything but a hybrid. It saves us a lot of money and gas costs. So it's a good investment for the town. As gas prices spiked, his budget stayed pretty flat, so he's a big fan. So thanks to Ann for that. All right, so now you get me. So remember the 79% thing, right? Most of the emissions is us, so we better do something about that thing. And so what we are doing is we're participating in a 4-town initiative called Plug-in. You will start to see banners up in town. Abby, when do those go up? Soon, in like a couple weeks, right? Yes. You'll see Plug-in Metro West. You'll see stuff on social media, which you have already, I think. You will see it as any possible way we can get the word out. And so you will start to see stuff that looks like this. We have a website called pluginmetrowest.org. This is the website. I already met Catherine and Esther, both of whom are exploring solar and also heat pumps. We have our own webpage on energizewayland.org, which has great information, but we've now done something in these 4 towns. So if you are thinking about either heat pumps, solar, or community solar, this website is great, and we're doing it collaboratively because although New England is balkanized in terms of municipalities, in fact, we need to collaborate more with our neighbors and work more with our neighbors, and we're doing that. So these are the technologies we are promoting, as I just said, and the website also then connects you back with our Energize Wayland site. For each of these technologies, you'll be able to do 5 things, if I can remember these. You can learn about them. You can find a coach. You can see vendors that we recommend. You can learn about federal or state incentives. And you can see testimonials from other people who have done it. So Shelley's going to write a testimonial for her heat pump, and she's going to say what was good and what was not so good, and the vendor she used, which is Rodenheiser, as I recall. And you'll be able to see all of those things on the website, not just for Wayland, but for these 4 towns, because, I'd hear from somebody in Natick. Good enough, that sounds great. Each page also specific to the technology will allow you to post a comment, so you'll be able to see what other people are thinking. And if you want to get more updates, do that, and you'll just be on our newsletter. And then you'll see these are the testimonials, and there'll be a listing of all of these events. We are here right now. I'll do a plug for Steve right there, who's going to raise his hand. He's going to hear from him soon. Steve's our master heat pump expert. Steve's going to do an event on heat pumps are for everybody in March 14th. And many of us have benefited by heat pumps. If you have a heat pump in your house, raise your hand. Okay, a lot of people in this room have heat pumps. There'll be a something on solar that our neighbors in Acton are doing as a webinar. It's going to be great. We're going to do one on April 2nd, which is going to be about solar with battery backup. We have interesting options for battery backup that you can learn about. So the website's great, and now I think we're going to give you just a little taste of each of those three technologies and introduce technology. We have volunteer coaches in town who can really help you navigate, I would say particularly on heat pumps, the Byzantine and complicated pathways that you might have to follow. So Steve, you want to talk for a few minutes about heat pumps and introduce our heat pump coaches? And take any questions on heat pumps?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Steve Bright. I've been a resident of Wayland for, 30 years now. And I know many of you through these activities. I got a heat pump in my own house in 2019 and went on to coach now dozens of residents in Wayland and surrounding communities and friends other places in the state on adopting heat pumps. So heat pumps, your home's heating accounts for at least 50% of your home's carbon footprint, of your household carbon footprint. Often, if you include hot water, you're probably well over 60% of your carbon footprint is due to both of hot water heating and the space heating can be addressed with heat pumps. And so the idea is that you electrify, whether your electricity comes from rooftop solar or renewable sources on the grid. Even today at the standard utility offering, which is about, I think now we're around 28% renewables in our grid, 24%. Even at that low level of renewables, it still reduces your carbon footprint, but if you switch to fully renewable, then it drops your carbon emissions from heating to zero. So really, probably the biggest single step you can take. The challenge is that every home is unique. That's my mantra. Every home in this area has had some modifications, or it has an old heating system. So it can be challenging to decide what type of heat pump, there are multiple types available, and what type of configuration, which contractor to use. And that's why it helps to have individualized guidance on this. And there are several things that are available now through MassSave. There are consultations available from Abode Energy, which is based up in Concord, but very capable firm. They provide free advice through MassSave. And then we also have volunteer energy coaches, heat pump coaches in Wayland. And I'll just ask you to raise your hands. There's Ann Harris in the back, Paul Dale, and Tom Siaka are available now in Wayland, and I hope that we'll have volunteers that I can train. I'm starting the third offering of a heat pump coaching basics course in a few weeks, and if you know anybody who's interested in helping neighbors convert to heat pumps, they can attend this course and get started. So heat pumps are costly. The heating system is probably the most costly system in your house. And it's not something that you're going to run out right away and replace. So there are three circumstances when it makes sense to consider a heat pump. I'll exclude the Energy Committee members here and the other people I know. Are there any of you who don't have central air conditioning in your house, or you rely on window air conditioners? A couple people back there, 3 people. So guess what? Heat pumps provide heating and cooling. They're great. They're very efficient air conditioners. In fact, a heat pump is just a fancy air conditioner. It runs in both directions. And they do much better job air conditioning than older air conditioners. So you have a great value there if you want to add air conditioning or get rid of those noisy, inefficient window air conditioners. Consider a heat pump. That's a real no-brainer situation. Second situation is amongst folks, when your if you have an existing air conditioning system, if it's over 15 years old, it's probably reached end of life. So that's a great opportunity to consider a heat pump. And then if your heating system is over 20 years old, again, heating systems can last a bit longer, but you should be thinking about replacing it. What you don't want to do is wait till your heating system fails on a cold winter day, because it does take time to get quotes from installers, evaluate the quotes, think about your options. It's not something you want to do when it's 5 degrees outside. We don't have very many of those days anymore, but it does happen. So it's something you want to plan for and think about. The third situation where you definitely want to think about heat pumps is you're doing an addition or building a new house. Today, it makes no sense to put a fossil fuel system. I'm delighted to hear that our new senior center is going to be 100% electric, heated with heat pumps, totally feasible now today. So there's no reason to add fossil fuel heating to a new building if it's properly weatherized and designed. So those are the situations. The ways to get access to the heat pump coaches are through the plug-in website. Abby gets the requests and she'll dole them out to the available coaches. Depending on how much demand we have, you may have to wait a few weeks for a coach to have time, but right now our coaches have time, I think, and so a great time to ask for help from a coach.
Questions for Steve on heat pumps? Yeah.
Tony.
Steve, when are you going to go geothermal?
Well, I tried. You've been my only. This is Tony, and you've been actually my first and only client who actually I had one other. Your neighbor across the street considered geothermal. It works out with air source heat pumps today, and I've looked at costs, collected cost estimates. Geothermal, the out-of-pocket cost for most customers ends up being about twice what it is for air source heat pumps, and that even after all the generous incentives for geothermal. And you have to have a pretty long horizon for that to be a sensible investment. It makes probably more sense for new construction. Yes? Yeah, so the question is, when it gets too cold, the heat pumps don't work. Modern heat pumps provide, the best ones can provide level output down to 5 degrees Fahrenheit. We have very few hours. Like last winter, we had that one cold snap. It was really only about 4 or 5 hours when it was below 5 degrees. So to be in total honesty, you might have a time when the heat in your home goes, it can't quite keep up. It might drop to 65 or 60. It will still put out heat. You're never going to be in danger, but our planet is in danger, and so I think that's one of those areas where I hope that people are willing to accept some occasional discomfort in exchange for making a huge difference. But in my house, I think last winter, only during that one cold snap did I need any backup heat, and that's generally true for heat pumps that are properly sized for the home and where you have decent weatherization in the home.
You might just make a comment about hybrid systems.
Yeah, it is right now with the gas is actually, natural gas is unfortunately the lowest cost way to heat. And so for people with natural gas, it often makes, if they're concerned about the heating costs, they can have a hybrid system where the heat pump provides heat most of the time, definitely when it's above 30 degrees, but you can push it down to 25 or 20 degrees, see maybe just a few $100s a year in extra costs. But if you tried to heat 100% with the heat pump, then you're going to have somewhat higher costs for electricity plus gas than you would have had for gas alone. So those hybrid installations, and actually I would say most of the people I've coached, they keep the fossil system there as backup, and it provides a level of resilience having two systems. Christopher. Is it Chris? Yeah. Oh, yeah. You didn't even need to prompt me with Christopher. Yeah. Well, so Eversource is the utility supplying Wayland. They have an electric heating rate, and all you have to do is, if you rely mostly on a heat pump, is call Eversource and ask you. I think it's either the R4 or A4 rate. It's not a huge. When I did it 2-3 years ago, it was about a 5% reduction in the distribution cost. So 5% on roughly 50% of each. Of the electric bill. I think lately it's much less than, is it half a cent now? So it's not as significant, but that's, but yeah, Ellen's going to tell you we've finally got community choice aggregation in Wayland, so that's the way to go. Yes. And so geothermal, you have in most installations in this area, they drill wells in the property. Usually for a typical house, it would be at least one 500-foot deep well, and they run a polymer tubing into the well. It's a loop with water and antifreeze in it, and they extract heat from the ground. And the ground stays in this area well above 50 degrees if you get more than 4 feet down. So that's the most efficient way to run a heat pump, because you're not the temperature difference between the ground and the home is much smaller than. But the more common heat pumps are extracting heat from the outdoor air, even when it's 0 degrees outside. There's heat out there, and they extract it, but it's a much larger temperature difference. So they're fighting. The efficiency isn't quite as high as ground source heat pumps.
But the real beauty is in the summertime.
Yeah, in the summer, it's they're even more efficient for air conditioning in the summer. Margie.
I wonder what the latest is on mini splits.
Well, that's a big topic. I think maybe we could get into that a little more in the March 14th event. Yeah, I mean they're getting better. They're already very good, I think, and so mini splits are these. Many people have seen the wall. That's not one. Yeah, if you've seen a bump on the wall that provides, that's the indoor part, and the outdoor part is a unit that has. They look different from conventional air conditioners. They have horizontal flow. And the small ones are unusually for things in engineering. Usually the bigger something is, the more efficient it is. With these mini split heat pumps, the smaller ones are actually the most efficient. And then there are larger capacity ones that are a little bit less efficient. But they have all kinds of configurations now, and many of my clients have put them in.
I think I'm going to move us on.
Yeah.
So I would say, no. So the way we're going to run this, we're going to try and end by about 8:30. 12:30ish, and then there'll be like 15 minutes. If you have more questions on heat pumps, see Steve, see Paul, see Tom, see Ann. All of those people can talk to you about heat pumps. And there are really generous state and federal incentives. State incentives up to $10K if your whole house is heat pump with no backup, and otherwise thousands of dollars in between, and federal tax credits up to a certain amount.
Thank you, Ellen. Those incentives are sometimes hard to understand, so that's one of the benefits that the coaches understand them and can help you understand them.
As someone who was coached by Steve, I would say, and it sounds like Christopher was, and many of us were here, it's when you get multiple quotes, it's like comparing, oranges to broccoli sometimes, and it's like, how do I compare them? And that's where the coach can really, really help, I think. So, John, do you want to just say, John and Tap, who's not here, are two solar coaches, just want to say a couple things about solar if people are considering it?
Sure. Foot just went to sleep, so it's going to take a minute to wake up. Whoop. Yep. Come here, Foot. Okay, so rooftop solar is actually quite popular in Wayland. We think of it as a very treed community, but can anyone guess just a number in the last year, just this last year, how many solar arrays were put in this town? How many houses? Last year? 30. Warmer. So about 40 arrays were put in, and over the last 7 years, about 160. So 25% were put in just in the last year. That's just in the current state's incentive program. The state maintains a list of all the installations across all the various generations of incentives. So in fact, it's far more than that. But it is active and it's ongoing. And what's interesting about this is they vary in size. It depends on the roof, depends what the customer wants. So we've probably had about 13 different installers during that time period. About half of those installations are done just by two companies. One was Tesla Energy, and the other one was Sunrun. And then there's another 15 or another 12, 13 other companies. So it's a wide variety of companies that are active in this area. Some people have done batteries. Not surprisingly, Tesla's, most of their installations have involved batteries inside because they sell the batteries. They also vary on whether the customer paid for it up front or if they actually bought the electricity from the installer, which basically means someone else owns the array and sells you the power from that. So depending on the company, they all have their different business plans. So Tesla, more often than not, you just bought the battery and the solar array from them. If you use Sunrun, more typically than not, almost all of their arrays they sold you the electricity. It just has to do with what the type of business they do. So the key for you is there's just a lot of different ways you can approach solar. So if you're interested, I encourage you to think about it. You can get multiple quotes. The state runs programs to give you information about what you can look for, what to ask for. There are private sector companies that are nonprofits that do this as well. I'm happy as a coach to give you those names so you can kind of start thinking about what sort of questions. But just as a prompt, what sort of questions come to mind as you're thinking about solar? What would be some of the things that you come to mind? Steve?
All the quotes that I've seen quote in kilowatts, which means not kilowatt hours. And what I'd like to know is why they can't quote the estimated kilowatt hours in a year based on your roof and expected solar exposure and so forth. Because that would allow you to sort of do a better estimate of the value.
Right. So there's a difference here. A kilowatt is just a measure of a unit of electricity or capacity. And a kilowatt hour is how much a kilowatt produces in an hour. So one's a measure of actual production. The other one's a measure of the capacity of the system to produce the solar. And you're right, Steve. Virtually every installer will quote you the size of the system, how many panels or number of kilowatts. What's more relevant for you is, okay, what's the system going to produce? So if you've got a really sunny roof, okay, it's going to produce more than your neighbor who's got 5 trees surrounding his house. Another way of doing it is just simply, what's the payback period for you? What's it going to cost and how quick you're going to pay back? If you've got a really sunny roof, you're going to get more electrons hitting your roof and you're going to get your money back sooner than you would if it's a really shady roof. So there's different ways of comparing it, and if you're getting multiple quotes, which I'd suggest, you want to think about that and try and do some sort of comparison. Some people are going to look at the absolute cost. Other people are going to look at what the number of kilowatt hours that it might be produced over the same time period, 10 years, 5 years, whatever it is. There's different installers will try and steer you in different directions. So that's one of the things that you'll want to do as you're thinking about this is how do you compare them? You know, what's an apples to apples comparison? Other ideas of what you'd be thinking about? What sort of questions you might ask? Right. So if it's a really shady roof, chances are the installers are going to say, it may not be worth it. Behind that statement, they're going to be thinking about what's the cost to you and how fast you're going to get your money back. If you know you're going to leave your house in 5 years because, multiple kids on the way, you're going to grow it, you're going to move somewhere else, it may not be worthwhile. On the other hand, if you're going to be there for a long time, it could make it worthwhile. One of the things that Ellen and I did is we had some birch trees out front. We actually ended up topping one of them because, big surprise, birch trees grow quickly. And we kept topping the top area. And that made a difference in terms of the solar production. Didn't change the aesthetics. It just kept it at a certain height. So it depends on how shady the roof is. If it's so shady it covers all the areas of the roof you might put your panels on, that's something that the installer can do. One of the great things about Google Earth, all the internet, is many of the installers, particularly Sunrun, they will not start the process by coming out to your house. Instead, they're just going to look down from the sky. They can look down and get a pretty good idea of, one, is it shady or not? Because they can look at the angle of the sun. They can see the trees and the shade, even though the Google picture that we see is going to be in a different direction. They can gauge where the sun's going to be coming from. And they can also get a sense of how old your roof is. That's the other aspect of a roof. If it's a new roof, your roof's going to last 20, 25 years. That's how long your panel's going to run. If, however, your roof is over 10 years old, it's not hard and fast, they may say, why don't you wait until you replace the roof? Because the deal is, if you have to repair the roof and take the panels off to repair the roof, if you're going to replace the roof, the cost of taking the panels off and putting it back on will pretty much kill the savings you're going to get from the electricity. So as a general rule, and when they're starting retrofits, they start with the people who've got new roofs. So if you're putting a new roof on, or you're going to do it in the next couple of years, that's a golden time to do it. Abby talked about the Loker solar project. The school's been around for a long time. We waited to start that project until a new roof got put on. That's the difference. The Wayland Middle School, perfect roof, lots of sun, but it can't support the weight. So those sort of considerations, the same thing in terms of a home. You want to make sure the roof can support it. Almost all the time that's going to be the case. Yes?
Just to that point also, doesn't the 30% federal tax credit also cover roof replacement? Or it used to?
It's a stretch. So I'm not going to give you tax advice. You should talk to your accountant. The idea is the tax credit is geared for all the stuff that goes into making the solar. If you put the solar on the ground, you can't deduct the dirt. And the feds tend to take the same approach with a roof because you're primarily using the roof to keep the rain from coming in. But some people take that approach. It just depends on you and your accountant. Yeah, there are a couple of companies that do solar shingles. The price tends to be more pricey, but then you have to weigh that you're not having to buy a roof. So, yeah, there are a couple of companies. Tesla is beginning to do it. Certainteed, based in California, is also doing some of this. So it's coming along. And also you can get the panels looking in different colors, like SunPower has different color panels than another company's vendor. So you can do some variation there. Yeah. A long time. Longer than you're going to own your home. Yeah. 20, 25 years. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't take care of it. And that's the main issue there is you might get, critters coming in there and say, oh, nice wire. I think I'll chew on it type of thing. So, yeah.
Is there such a thing as a typical payback period?
Yeah, that's a great question. Ultimately, it depends on what you want it to be. 7, 10 years type of thing. Ellen and I put in our array in 2010.
We were under 5 years.
We were under 5 years. Incentives are better from the state. another way of asking your question, there are federal incentives, the 30% tax credit that you mentioned earlier. There's also state incentive programs that help reduce the cost still further. There have been loan programs as well, so there's a number of different ways in which you can get other people's money to help you.
Plug in metrowest.org site and go under solar. You'll get a link to what all the incentives are. Shelley, what did you just put a solar in? What was your payback you figured?
7 years.
7 years.
But
Okay.
I'm shady. And when they first came in to look at mine, they said, forget it. And then I had them come back about 6 years later, and the power, the panels have gotten so much more efficient that they said, okay. And so it's fine.
Yeah.
Usually you can get a pretty good quote, and John said, without someone coming out, they'll just do a Google Earth look and see whether you're kind of in the zone. But and it's easier to compare the quotes for solar than it is for heat pumps because they're fundamentally kind of the same.
Right.
I will say just our former solar coach, Catherine, many of you know, we've had a good relationship with East Coast Solar. They've been really great on the customer service side. So on the plug-in Metro West, we'll send you to Energy Sage, which is a marketplace where you can get different quotes. But East Coast Solar has been great on customer service here in Wayland. So worth getting at least one quote from them. I'm going to steal the mic to go because we got like 6 more minutes.
Right. So just to close it out, one key aspect is if you've got a very boring, simple roof, then you can get quotes from companies that do it in volume, Sunrun. If you've got a more complicated roof, other issues, then companies like this that give more specialized service. So there's lots of different flavors that you can do. So don't just assume that one quote is going to be exactly the same as someone else's. So thank you. And we do have the coaches, and happy to talk.
Come see John at the end, Catherine, if you want to talk solar. Anybody else wants to talk solar, and you can sign up for coaches on the site. So Catherine said to me, I'm too shady. I'm like, I have a program for you. I have 2 programs for Catherine. But the first one is Community Solar. Other than me and Ann, who else has signed up for Community Solar? Steve, begrudgingly. So Community Solar works like this. It's a subscription model, just like you're subscribing to Netflix. Basically, somebody builds a solar project. The project produces electricity. The utility, I subscribe to this project, and I get a credit on my bill, right? That's the way it works. And by subscribing, John used to finance solar projects, and by subscribing, what we're doing is we're saying to the marketplace, lots of people want to buy this solar energy, so people keep building them. You can finance them because there'll be people who want to subscribe to the service. So it's not like you actually own a panel per se. And what happens then is you get 2 bills. If we lived in New York State, you would get 1 bill because they have a better regulatory regime. Here we get 2 bills. It will maybe get fixed soon. So I get a bill from NextAmp, which is the provider I use, and the bill says, pay me this for producing the solar energy. Then I get my bill from Eversource, and Eversource says, here's your bill, and now I'm going to show a credit on your Eversource bill that is bigger than what you paid NextAmp. So I get about a 12% discount on my electric bill by subscribing to NextAmp. John and I saved about $190 last year by subscribing, and we're helping support this industry that we want to grow, more and more solar production. That's local jobs. That's a good thing. So anybody who has an electric bill, whether you're a renter, you're a condo owner, so it's a good option if you're a renter or a condo owner, can subscribe. We also have solar already, but we still have an electric bill. Our solar does not cover our whole electric, so we can subscribe. And Ann is the same boat. Ann has solar, but she has heat pumps now, so using more electricity. So community solar is a good option, and I'm happy to talk in more detail with people about it. This 4-town collaborative did an RFP through Mass Energize, a nonprofit that is supporting it, to try and identify community solar providers with space, because there's often a wait list, with space in our area, and who would have good customer service and would come out to local community events. And we selected 2. NextAmp, which is the one we actually had before this, and you'll get this 12.5% discount on your bill. If you're income eligible, if you're a lower income household, we're going to work with SunWealth, and then you'll get over 20% reduction on your energy bill. So we'll be doing a lot of outreach in our senior population, and if you know anybody in that income eligible space. And both of these companies, you can reach them on the website. You can get to them through the plug-in metrowest.org, go to the community solar page and scroll down, and you get links to both of them. And Catherine, like that you could do tomorrow. So happy to talk about community solar. It's a teeny bit confusing. Yeah. The community solar has? Yes. Oh, sorry.
You're helping.
Okay.
When you sign up, are you signing up like with a definitive cost? Like, okay, it's going to cost this much per.
They size your subscription based on how much electricity you're using. So this starts to get a little bit complicated. You're not going to pay them the same amount per month. You're going to pay them for the solar energy produced. So you're going to pay more in the summer because they're producing more energy. They're going to produce more credits on your bill, which you'll work off over the course of the year. So there may be times where you've built up more credits than you're using that month. Just like those of us with solar systems might produce more solar energy in the summer, build those up on credits, and then we would use them off. So if you're very monthly price sensitive, like you're on a your budgeting is such that you wouldn't want to do that, this may not be the best option for you. But that's what will happen. You'll pay more when they're producing more solar. You'll get a bigger credit on your Eversource bill, and you'll work it off. And they'll try to size your system correctly. Steve had a missized system, so they had to correct it. But we'll, if you do it through this MetroWest.org program, I am more confident of very good customer service in making sure you don't end up with a problem. What is your name? Michelle. Michelle. Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. So what happens is they build these community solar farms, and then people subscribe to them, and they fill up their subscriptions. So you want, another way you can find these is on a marketplace called Energy Sage, which is great. You put in your zip code, and it shows you what the community solar is that's available. Steve and I did that, and we were on a wait list to get into a project for over a year, I think it was. Almost 2 years. So we didn't want to promote community solar and get you all jazzed up about, I don't know your name.
I'm Chris.
Oh, no, you're not. All right, Chris. Oh, Chris. Okay, Chris. So I thought you were just stealing his name, Chris. So I didn't want you to get all jazzed up and sign up for community solar and then have the provider say, oh, now you got to wait 2 years. That's a frustrating experience. So we wanted to make sure that they actually had available subscriptions. And so that we know where the community solar projects are that are providing this, so that when you sign up, you'll be able, like the one we're subscribed to is based in the Cape. They have them generally in this area. So sometimes they're on the top of a building, sometimes they're out in the.
That's all it has to be, is somewhere in the state now,
as of tomorrow. Yeah. So if you go to like the next thing, it'll tell you where their projects are. And if on the website, the MetroWest website, we have examples of what their projects look like. So community solar is worth exploring, is what I want to say. And it's a teeny bit complicated, just as it is. Yeah. And I'm going to, yes. So can you layer? I want to save that question because I'm going to show you the big layering option at the end. I'm like saving the pièce de résistance to the end here. Yes, you just you can absolutely layer. So you have a house. You put solar on. You're building up credits on your account. You can also add community solar as long as you have an electric bill, because you're building up credits, right? So you need a bill to credit against. Let me just say. Ann mentioned we have Energize Wayland. A bunch of us volunteer for that. We're looking for more volunteers. Anybody who wants to help us, we have lots of things to do. And this is our website, so you can see this is where you can click on tax credits. This gets you back to the plug-in campaign. And we list all the actions you can take. So we're promoting 3 here tonight. There's lots of stuff you can do. EVs is one. Shelley, raise your hand, is our EV coach, along with Sabine, who lost her voice tonight. So there's lots of things you can do, and we have many actions, and for each action there's a summary, steps to take, and testimonials from neighbors. So if you've done them, please add testimonials. So here's the most exciting thing I'm going to tell you tonight, which is town meeting almost 2 years ago, we voted to pursue something called community choice aggregation. Who's never heard of this? Be honest. Oh, come on, only one. Okay, so I'll talk to you. So Community choice aggregation is basically group buying. Most of us have our electric bill with Eversource. They're our utility. Some people have picked other providers, fine. And so Eversource goes out and it makes contracts to get energy supplied to them, right? What we do in community choice aggregation, and our program is called Wayland Electricity Choice, because in Wayland we like choice. We are, as a group of people who have Eversource bills, getting all together and going out to the market to say, what's the price you would give us to supply the energy? So it's group buying, and it's an alternative to, you might get a lot of stuff in the mail saying, hey, do this, there's more green, and you never know if they're legit or not. This is legit because the Department of Public Utility regulates us, and we go through a process to look for suppliers. What this does and does not change is the following. We're going to make a contract to get the energy from a different supply. This part does not change. Same transmissions line, the electrons move the same way. You're the end user. The power goes out, you still call Eversource. You still pay Eversource a bill. In this case, just one bill, not like the other thing, just one bill. And we negotiated, as of yesterday, the following prices, which will be available in May. The first thing I want to say is everyone who, before you look at the prices, everyone who has an Eversource electric bill, will be moved automatically to this program. You don't have to do anything because we understand behavioral economics, which is people don't do things. You will all be moved automatically. If you had a third-party provider, which I think people in the room have, like Steve, I'll pick on Steve does, and Tom, you will have to talk to your third-party provider and say, if you want to, I want to get out of this when my contract ends, and I want to then opt to this other one. And we have a website, people who answer the phones to answer these questions. So here's the money thing. Right now, if you're on Eversource, you're paying a little over 17 cents a kilowatt hour. Now that Steve confused us with the math of all this. We are going to move everybody to Wayland Standard Green. You will save whatever that is, 4 cents. That is a lot of money. And here's the really, this is why we're doing it. Right now with Eversource basic service, 24% of the electricity comes from renewable energy generated in New England. We got this price with 20% more renewable energy generated in New England for the nerds among you, Class 1 RECs. All right, so that's what we locked in yesterday. This price is locked in for 2 years. If you would like to defy the behavioral economists and actually make a choice actively and not just do what we do to you, you have 2 choices. You can opt to 100% green, where all of the electricity will come from Class 1 RECs, New England renewable energy, and that will still be in May, roughly 2 cents less than what you're paying now with Eversource basic service. Or you can opt down to what we call Wayland economy, and this is the minimum renewable energy that the state requires, the 24%, and that would be 12 cents. So if you're putting in a heat pump, Steve, for example, and you're worried about what's going to happen to your electric bill, Wayland economy might be a good choice for somebody in that scenario. So you have 3 choices. You will very soon get a postcard from the town saying, coming soon, Wayland Electricity Choice. It'll have the town logo on it to not confuse you with all the letters you get from a million other people. Coming soon, a letter from the town. 2 weeks later, you're going to get a letter from the town saying this is what it is, and it's going to have a chart that looks like this with a bunch more lines because the Department of Public Utilities makes it more confusing. So that's basically what it is. So back to your layering question. I could put solar on, get credits on my bill. I'm going to do this because I'm moved to this. I could opt to 100% green and still be paying less than I'm paying now. And then if I still have an electric bill after all of this, I can add on community solar. So, misunderstood the question.
Where somebody said, oh, just call Eversource. I'm here because I put in a heat pump, and last month there was a 173% fee increase on my electric bill, and I panicked.
Okay.
And so I'm just trying to find out, and I'm not sure. It was a lot to put in the heat pump.
Right.
We did go through getting a loan. through Mass Save.
Yep.
Getting the rebate.
Yep.
So it was a lot.
Yep.
And Nico coming in and doing the
Insulation stuff.
weatherization, and we had to fix a wall, and it just snowballed, and
Yep.
it became a lot.
Yep.
So going to tell my husband, let's put solar panels on the
Right.
roof, he'll be like, get out of my face.
Well, fair point.
So
First thing is, I'm going to reduce your electric bill right away.
So that's what I'm trying to like.
So this, and you can, so first of all, about your heat pump, you can talk to Steve or Ann to make sure like it's actually working correctly. There might be some issues, I don't know. So first thing, is it working great? Second issue, as of May, I'm gonna lower your bill. So you can kind of do the math on your bill. And if you want to even lower it more, you can go down to this. Okay, so I've now given you a bunch of choices. And if you still have a bill after that, which you will, I'm sure, you can sign up for community solar and reduce that bill by 12%. So I can give you, this is what I can give you. And what is your name again? Dana. Okay, Dana. So happy to help you with all of those things. And thanks for leaping off the diving board with us on all of this. So that is Wayland Electricity Choice. And there will be several public events on this. There is a website on it. There's people to answer phone calls because our consultants do all of that. And this is the part, I think I've covered all this. If you have solar panels, no change. If you're on a low-income rate, no change. For your heat pump, you might think about calling Eversource to be on the all-electric heating rate, which is a small thing, but you could layer that too. Any questions on Wayland Electricity Choice? You're going to see banners. You're going to see lots. We could use lots of people's help getting the word out. Margie and Tony, like your class, we'd love to make sure that word gets out. Steve.
Yeah, so let's say you're one of those people generating all their electricity with solar now.
Yep. So you have no electric bill.
Yeah, no payment due every month.
Yep.
From Eversource.
Yep.
So you're generating more in the summer, you're saving it up,
Yep.
and then you're using it. What would I choose?
You have really no bill almost. So I would just, I don't know, teeny bit of a bill. There's the delivery charge. That part I can't, this is affecting the supply side, not the delivery side. So if you're on Eversource, you're just going to get automatically moved to our default rate. So I would just probably see what happens, what happens to your bill after that.
Right, but there's a rate that they must apply to what I save up when I generate more than I use. And there's another rate that they deliver it with, right?
Right. There. Do you want that gets into net metering credits?
Do you understand what I'm asking?
Yeah, if you generate in the summertime, June, you make more electrons than you use.
Right.
You get $1 credit.
Right.
That dollar credit gets worked off in the fall.
But it must be based on
No.
that rate on the rate.
No.
Separate incentive program.
There's a whole separate,
Oh, okay.
it has its own tortured, convoluted, complicated regulatory thing.
Hence my question.
Yeah.
PhDs to do this stuff. That's why
Yeah. It's a separate set of rules around that. But good question, Steve. Right. All right. And the final thing is, we're not done yet. We will have 3 town meeting articles on sustainability, so I really encourage all of you to come to town meeting. These are the 3. The first 2 are around solar that Abby and John are leading. The Loker project, we approved it a couple years ago at town meeting. We want to extend the term of the contract from 20 to 25 years because it's a better deal for us. So that's just kind of a housekeeping article from my perspective. And then we have to go to town meeting when we put in solar because we enter into a long-term contract. We don't pay for these solar installations. Basically, we say to someone else, you can use our land, build it, and you're going to generate solar that's going to create credits on Wayland's bill. They make money, we make money. To do that, a long-term contract, to do a long-term contract, town meeting has to agree to it. So we're putting, as Abby talked about, we're talking solar canopies at the COA building at Town Center and a small roof area. The third one is the specialized code, which you could think about as the net zero code. 32 other towns have passed this. It only applies to new construction, not additions, renovations, or existing homes. And it says if you're going to build a new building, as Steve said, let's not put fossil fuel in that new building. So the code says build it all electric, But if you want the choice and you want to put in fossil fuel, it'd be a mixed fuel building. You've got to also put solar on the building unless it's just way too shady. That's basically what the code says. And it was in our climate action plan that we were going to do this. The code came out in December. We are now moving forward with it. And I said, the city of Boston's done it, Cambridge done it, Stowe, I don't know. Weston just passed it, Lincoln's passed it, Needham's passed it, like on and on and on. And Natick is voting on it a month before we are. So it's important to come out and vote for that because it's one of those policy changes that makes a difference. And as Abby said, our latest building is being built fossil fuel free. We met with our permanent municipal building committee that oversees all the construction in town. They voted 4-0 to support this. So I want to encourage you to come, not just do stuff in your homes, but actually let's work on the policy side. Lynn. It is, I believe, May 16th. I could be off a day or two, but that's basically what it is. So, questions? Other comments people we know each other. Doug? Yeah, Doug. I was like, I think that's Doug. Other things on people's minds? So remember, you have coaches. You got Steve, Paul, and Tom on heat pumps, John's solar, community solar. We really, I think, Christopher, you probably benefited from coaching and would recommend it. Thumbs up on coaching. Tom?
Let me make one comment. I think Ellen understated the benefits of the community choice. Renewables is not the same as non-fossil fuel, and it turns out that with the default option, only 18% of your electrical usage will be fossil fuel based. So it's really a good deal.
Right. It's required 24% renewable. We're adding 20. We don't count like the hydro, these older projects that exist, but they're not fossil fuel. Nuclear's in there. But we are really moving very aggressively if you do this, and for sure when you do this, to be completely fossil fuel free in your electricity supply. But I understand the cost consciousness part, so I've given you lots of choices. John?
Annual town meetings of
13, thank you.
Monday night, and then carryovers on the 14th.
Yeah. Other thoughts? Yeah, Doug?
EverSource price drop in 6 months?
Yes.
Some people be frustrated because that price could drop a little.
Yeah, it's a great question. So Doug's saying, Ellen, did you think about the fact that EverSource might lower their price? Yeah, I thought about it. So we have 15 minutes left. I got it. The answer is we thought about it, and our consultants who have helped 30 other towns have kind of looked at it. So we believe the EverSource rate will drop by a couple of cents, probably to around 15, maybe 14, but we pegged our standard green to really always be under that. So it would be shocking and almost incomprehensible for them to go from 17 cents to 13 because of the way they buy stuff over a historic and futures market. So prices were quite high. I think they're coming down, but we feel pretty confident that we're going to stay below EverSource. Our principle was stay below EverSource basic service confidently and get as much renewable as we could. That's what we were trying to do. So some of our neighboring towns like Brookline's got 60% renewable, but they're paying more than EverSource basic service. Acton also, and we just didn't think that was where Wayland was at. So we tried to get the vibe of the town and do the best we could. Other thoughts, other comments? Yeah.
More of an observation than the last question. Electric vehicle charging stations.
Yeah.
Who's in charge of those? Because
Well, the one in your house you're in charge of.
no, in a
I was going to answer the easy question. Yeah.
because more often than not,
They're not working.
they're not working.
Yeah.
You have a whole bank and
Yeah.
there's one working.
Yeah. Well, it really depends, right? So like the ones at Stop and Shop, Stop and Charge was in charge of those, and they weren't working for a long time. The ones in the back of the town building, we're in charge of. We got those with grant funds, and we're in charge, and every once in a while they don't work, and now Abby gets that fixed, right? She calls someone, we have a maintenance contract, but a lot of them are on a maintenance and subscription contract, and sometimes the companies are slower to respond. We're really thinking about this with the new ones, like should we own them, should we lease them? The technology's changing, so I'm sympathetic. Lynn? Yeah, when we did the solar canopies, it wasn't something that we could build into the project. We are looking at where we're going to put more EV charging stations, and schools are at the top of the list because we have teachers who drive. Catherine, nice to meet you. And click on the site, and you'll get coaching from whatever you want. Okay. All right. Thanks for coming. We're going to, it's going to cost us some out-of-pocket money, and so we got to figure out the capital budget on how to do it. So, but as schools are really at the top of our list because we have so many people driving to work there. Yeah. Other observations, questions? Shelley?
So, for people that switch to a different source than EverSource, they went with one of those
Yep.
alternatives because they were supposed to be green, and we were trying to do the right thing. So, I don't have a set contract time. I'm allowed to break the
Yeah.
contract any time. So, how do I get to?
Yeah. So here's what I'm going to say. Go to Wayland Electricity Choice. There's some FAQs on that, and there's a phone number. And they'll walk you through exactly how to do it. You're going to tell them no, and then they're going to put, when you get off of them, then you end up ending up on EverSource, and then you contact these as opt-in. So it's kind of a two-step process. Get off Verdi, they put you back on EverSource, then when you're in EverSource, you call Wayland Electricity Choice or go to the website and say, I want to move over. So that's the process. But I have someone to answer the phone and a website for you. Other observations, comments? Here's what I was thinking. Wayland's rocking it. I want to thank Tony and Margie, who taught a class at the Council on Aging on climate change. We got a lot of people in this room who are working really hard on this. So I really hope you guys talk to your neighbors about doing more. And if folks want to help us with Energize Wayland, we could use more, whatever your skill set is, or you just have like an hour a month. We're trying to promote stuff, and a lot of times we're posting on Wayland Community Forum. So if you see the post, it turns out if you comment on it, it bumps the post up. Don't just like does nothing. I mean, you want like all you want, but it has no impact. But if you comment like, this is cool, then it makes sure other people see it. So we could really use that modest help would be fantastic. Is there anything else we could do for you as a town before people leave? Anything else? Well, we try to talk to them, yeah. Poor Abby's been. We're due what over $100,000 in rebates. She's been trying to get back from them. Yeah. So, and what would you want to hear from them, Chris? Ever? Well, I mean, they're regulated. Yeah. I mean, I think. We've done a lot of good projects here. We're going to do 2 more solar ones. So I think we're doing a great job on that. And then we just need everyone else to think about how our homes are heated and what we're driving. Charging stations are an issue, and we're going to have to fix it over the next few years. That's for sure. But there are going to be a million more options on cars. I mean, it's getting quite plentiful. So, and the incentives on those are pretty good. So, all right, Paul.
No, this is. I think we owe a serious round of applause and appreciation for Ellen. The reason for that is this community choice aggregation program is the single most impactful thing that any town can do to reduce its emissions profile. We were talking about that 79%. We talked about all this municipal stuff is 4%. With this one change, where vast majority of our 4,800 households do absolutely nothing, and they are now getting 44% renewable energy on their electricity as opposed to 24% that the state mandates. That is an amazing result. And working through DPU on this has been a challenge for every single town that's tried to do it. So I'd like to a round of applause to Ellen.
Luckily, we have very good consultants. So, all right, guys, stay warm and find us. We're happy to help everybody and work with everybody. All right. Thanks to all the early adopters in this group, and we'll see if we can help you out here.